The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
You are comfortably zoned with the Zigzag Man in Alameda, California, pushing on the doors of life marked pull and fighting the unholy trinity as we go. Big business, organized religion, and government.
I'm back with David Hubler, back with Michael Preminger. How are you guys? Ready for some Bronx Roots?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
All right. Michael, what's been going on?
Oh boy. I'm laughing. Well, it was my birthday 2 weeks ago. That's right. So
right.
I'm an older guy with a lot of ailments, but I don't think that's what we want to talk. Not a lot. Just
well, we all have them. We're getting old, but
yeah.
This is the kind of thing that keeps our mind off of it for a while.
Right.
Yeah.
I thought I would start the program by asking you both if there's anything you'd like to get out there in any way that would feel cathartic to you. And start with David. And this is politics, baseball, life.
Something that would feel cathartic.
Just by getting it out.
Well, I mentioned earlier that tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. The cathartic feeling would come if I were turning 50. That would be nice. Even 40 would do.
Nice. So, what are you, 43 at this point?
Getting there, yes. I'm approaching 43, but from the other side.
And you think you'll be more distinguished if you make it to 50?
Yeah, I think. I mean, my numerous little ailments and things would probably disappear, would probably be gone, like if you could.
Yes, but if you had a chance to live it all over again, you might get hit by a bus. So.
Oh, don't say it.
No, of course, but we're grateful this is one life that I'm appreciating being older. I'm 71, almost 72, and
oh, you're a youngster.
A kid.
Boy.
You should be in the peanut gallery on this show.
I appear to be, but that's very deceptive.
Yeah, no, it's all what you make.
The only way I'm young is that I haven't grown up.
Yeah, mentally,
in that
right.
case, I'm about 6.
With a mustache, that's really incredible.
6 with a mustache. That sounds like 6 with 6 you get egg roll or something.
Yes, that's right,
6
free egg
with a
roll.
mustache.
You know what? One thing is interesting with Mike's birthday and mine. Among our group in the Bronx in the 50s, we were all born within there's so many of us who were born within like a month of each other. I mean, I was on the 3rd. I had a friend who was born on the 4th and another friend who was born on the 5th. One friend was born on August 28th. I mean, it was all like within a boom. You talk about a baby boom. This was, like the local explosion of babies.
It's kind of funny because it was like that in Jackson Heights. For me, my bar mitzvah, I had about 5 or 6 friends who had bar mitzvahs within two weeks of each other. So I guess it's.
You think neighbors got together and planned this stuff?
That was my dream. Is that's what it was.
Oh yeah.
But
all right, Martha, let's go upstairs. Wait.
Yeah. I've asked you guys this before, I think. What would the age that if you could go back, what age would you want to be, Michael?
Oh, I had said this. I remember you asking this. 28.
Okay. And I think me, it was around 31 or 32. How about you, David?
Yeah, I would split the difference. I'd say about 30 or so. Yeah, I mean, that was the time we were living in England, and our sons were born, and it was a very nice existence at that time. So, yeah, I would say about that time. And, of course, things were it was still, there was war and things like that going on. But where we lived in this quiet village, it was very pleasant. The work was very interesting, and that would be a good age. I think at 30 you still have it. Like Major League ball players at 30 really haven't started the downhill slope yet. So I think that's.
Yes,
I think,
but it's coming.
Well, it's all coming to all of us. That's the thing. That's what
Well, with it comes knowledge and wisdom too. I don't.
Only if you're Chinese. The Chinese get very smart, and they grow these little wispy beards, and they're very bright and very smart. It doesn't happen to us. We just get old and cranky.
That's very funny. That's very funny.
We're old cranky
little
men.
White beards, don't they?
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe we're cranky because we see the world too clearly, and we also see what could have been, what still could be, I guess. But hopes are fading to keep this thing together.
What thing are you talking about?
I'm basically talking about the world as we know it.
See
that is dependent on checks and balances, depending on a Supreme Court that doesn't want to put something in that says the president can't be investigated for crimes while he's in office, let alone impeached or anything like that.
Well, he can be impeached. There's no law against that. They've done it many times.
We have a Supreme Court nominee, Kavanaugh, who is he said it before. He doesn't want presidents being investigated.
Yeah, to be prosecuted while in office.
Right. Well, he doesn't even want him investigated, let alone prosecuted.
Well, I don't think he has much say in that. It's the separation of powers there. I mean, unless it were to come to the Supreme Court, the Supreme Court can't tell the executive.
If he gets on the Supreme Court, he has power there.
Only if a suit comes before the court. He can't do anything until then. I'm not so worried about it. I think he's going to be terrible. I have no hopes that this man will suddenly turn around and become a suitor, or even what's his name, who just retired, but who could see things on both sides. But I think it's going to be, that's the trouble. That's the trouble. Too many people don't really realize the effects of their vote. Many people do not assume that electing someone like Trump is going to lead to the whole judicial system being swayed to the right. And now all they're thinking about is the bread and butter issues and their guns. And I think Obama was right when he said that. Anyway.
Yeah, and their paycheck. They vote.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's understandable. Nobody wants to lose that. But it's sort of interesting. You see, we've just started talking about aging. And who are the people, the one cohort that has really gone, besides the evangelicals, the one cohort that is really in Trump's corner? And that's people our age. And that's very frightening.
Why is that, you think?
I don't know. I wish I knew.
I didn't see statistics broken down like that before. That's interesting.
But it's true, and you see these people, and so many of them are living on a Social Security pension and have Medicare, and yet the very two things that basically are keeping these people alive in one respect or another are the two primary things that Trump and his allies are trying to destroy. It boggles the mind. I just was reading that a whole bunch of GOP Senate candidates are all scrambling to do away with the pre-existing conditions part of the ACA, the Obamacare.
Of Obamacare, yeah.
And to me, that is so fundamentally wrong.
Absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
It's bad enough they're tinkering with the whole system to begin with instead of trying to improve it.
The best thing of it. That's the only thing
yes,
you can say that's
exactly.
working.
Well, it's not the only thing, but it certainly is a critical element. I mean, let's say to reach our age, which is untold, we will not reveal the correct age, but to suddenly wind up with a condition that may be curable down the road, but because of right now it's okay, but to lose the ability for to have insurance that is not irreversible because you suddenly come down with an illness, and it's just terrible. I mean, it's so antithetical to everything that we believe in, for the most of us believe in.
How about this? You're insured with a company, and they are paying people specifically to deny your claim.
That's right.
That's part of the budget. It's not built into the premiums, but it's part of the budget that an insurance company has. They hire people to deny.
That's right.
Deny, and then sue us. And if you sue us, maybe you're dead by then, and maybe our lawyers will outlast your lawyers.
Well, yeah, plus our lawyers, meaning the people who would be suing, probably have nowhere near the amount of money to go against a fleet of corporate lawyers on the other side. You just couldn't do it. You couldn't possibly afford it. And in addition to which, they would just drag it on out till you died, as you said. You just died before you can even get to court.
Yeah.
It's
or
horrible.
Just deny the whole thing at the beginning and let you have to start all over again in the claims process, which is arduous for. And I'm thinking about people who have lost their homes to these fires.
Sure. Yeah.
To prove that stuff and come up with records and all of that might have been destroyed in the fire, and deal with a bunch of snarky people who are paid for the same reason the other insurance companies pays them, to deny the claims.
Well, suppose right now you have insurance with a company, and under the law you can't be denied coverage because of a pre-existing condition. And let's say you had, something 10, 12 years ago. So they can't do anything about it now. But let's say, for the sake of argument, you lose your job at the company, and with it goes your insurance. Now you get another job, and you apply for their insurance, and because of that pre-existing condition a dozen years or so ago, you can't get the insurance through no fault of your own. You didn't do anything. You paid premiums. The company paid premiums, and now suddenly you're nowhere. You're just totally out of luck. It's a very awful, awful situation, and I have a lot of bones to pick with Republican legislators, but I cannot understand how any one of them could be against health care for everyone. It just boggles my mind.
And it should be single payer, and it should.
Yeah, it probably should be. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it should. But I don't know how we will ever see that happen. I don't know. I mean, the whole idea. Yeah.
Single payer again is what?
Just one organization, like Medicare. Everybody's in Medicare, regardless of their age.
And you don't need a secondary?
Well, you might want a secondary, but everyone is basically covered by, let's say, Medicare or some other name they give it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Britain,
it becomes a government program, but if the government can afford to have 7 wars going on over oil and religion, then they can afford to take care of the people who,
of course,
what they want is what everybody else has in medical care. Everybody should get the same. If you're really rich or you're really poor, you should be entitled to be cured, have a life expectancy that's
normal.
as good
Yeah,
as
normal
the
life.
next guy.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean,
it
you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to rely on one of the.
When you
it is. It is unfair. it's
no, I mean it's unfair it would be that way. It'd
of course.
Really fair. It'd be nice. It would be idyllic.
And look, I know, folks, just until recently, until this latest Democratic governor came in Virginia, and a couple of Republican state senators finally saw the light and changed their vote. But there were 400,000 people, mostly poor people, in the southwest corner of Virginia who had no health care.
Wow.
Because 400,000 in just this one state. And the state legislature kept refusing to accept the Obamacare program that would set up registers and programs within the state. They said no, because even though the federal government was going to pay 90-something% of the costs, and then reduce it over 10 years to where it was a little more equitable for the federal government and the state. They say, oh no, because what's going to happen is the federal government is going to leave us high and dry. We'll have to foot the whole bill, so we don't even want to go into this thing.
But who puts the whole bill if these people don't have insurance and they go on welfare? Doesn't the state end up footing the bill?
Yeah, I mean, of course, and if they check into a hospital with no insurance, they have to be treated by law. So where does that come from? It comes from the fact that people. There was a case the other day. The woman had a heart attack or something. I forget the result. And she went into the hospital. She recovered, and it took a while. She was in the hospital for a bit, and she felt the bill came to over $120,000, of which her insurance paid $50,000.
Oh,
that left a bill of whatever the difference is. For her to pay. And there's no resources to do this. Now, what the hospitals do is they overcharge everyone. Just because if they could get that overcharge paid, that helps to defray the cost of the people who can't afford anything. So we're stuck either way. But it's just
$8 for a box of Kleenex, for instance.
Yeah, exactly. Or $7 for an aspirin tablet. You know, they do that, and they do. It's just awful. Just a terrible, terrible system. Yeah.
Speaking of aspirin, something comes out this week, and we've all been trained to take either an aspirin, a baby aspirin, for preventative medicine, basically, to prevent a heart attack or prevent you thin the blood, this, that, and the other thing. This is 25 years they've been doing this. They come out this week and they say it's ineffective, and that the gains are out, or you lose more in the long run, because because the chances are you'll bleed more from the aspirin than it'll save you from a heart attack.
Well, I mean, I haven't seen that. I mean, I know that the dosage is supposed to be that 81 milligram. That's low dosage.
Right. Well, it just absolutely it shocked me that, I mean, I saw it all over CNN. I'll send you a link if I could find one.
That's all right. I mean, I frankly do take one. I take a.
Do you?
Right.
Yeah,
No?
yeah. And I asked my doctor about it, and he said, "Sure, you go ahead. You know." Now, of course, that may be for these latest. But you know, these studies come and go. Now suddenly, coffee is healthy.
No, I was going to say, now coffee is good for you.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and then 10 years ago, you can't drink coffee; that'll kill you. You know, now coffee is the great.
Now the positive effects of shooting heroin in your eye are absolutely astronomical.
Who would have that? I understand. That can be.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Yeah, that's a hard one. But the what was it? Oh, Coca-Cola. No, Pepsi-Cola. It was Pepsi-Cola just purchased for several $1 billion this European coffee company, sort of like the Starbucks of Europe. And they bought it specifically for the idea of getting into that area of drinks, because they're all getting away from the sweetened, sugar sweetened.
Mm-hmm.
So they need another outlet to keep their revenue stream going. So they bought this thing. They're not going to compete in the States with Starbucks per se, but they're going to figure out other programs. They're not going to open up one of these, like supposedly they're all over Europe now, like the Starbucks are. But all of a sudden, coffee is now drink 2 or 3 cups a day, you'll feel fine. Right? It's just crazy stuff.
And now they're saying it doesn't increase blood pressure or whatever. But when I drink a lot of coffee, and I will either drink no coffee or too much coffee, that's how I go. And when I'm drinking a lot of coffee, it makes me feel racy. And
yeah, that's why I stopped. I was.
Oh, really?
Flutters.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I was drinking a lot.
Oh. And now they have this thing, this cold press coffee. We have one in the office. There's a company nearby. So they've set up one in our office, sort of goodwill kind of thing. And it's cold coffee. Comes right out of almost like a beer tap. And it comes in a keg. And they replace the keg periodically. And it's supposedly much stronger than caffeine. The caffeine amount is much stronger than normal coffee. But it's
you
very
can go into Starbucks and get a hit or two of what do they call it? Boy, I can't think of that.
Joy juice?
No,
I don't know. I don't go to Starbucks.
A hit or two in your coffee. Boy, it's coffee concentrated.
Oh, wow.
Real concentrate of coffee or not cappuccino. I'll think of it later. I'm off.
I don't know, because all of those names confuse me. I don't go into Starbucks very often, and you can't just order, I'd like a cup of coffee, please. They say, well,
Oh, they laugh at you.
They do. They laugh at you. What? You want coffee? Right, sure. What kind of coffee would you like? A cappuccino frappa mocha? Or, all this. And then we're going to put your name on the cup so that you remember that it's yours, because this stuff is going to knock you for a loop.
And people don't remember that coffee is very dehydrating. So
yeah, it's a diuretic. Yeah, I mean, piss like a goat when you drink a couple of cups of coffee.
So, what else is going on that you guys want to talk about, and how are we going to solve any of these problems, or anything stand out to you? What's cathartic to you, Michael?
My grandson's fall baseball season starting next week.
Oh.
Cool.
That's
cool.
I know that.
That's always fun. Yeah.
Does he?
I was
what
going to
position
say,
does he play?
Excuse me?
What position does he play?
Well, he's only 5, so.
Okay, so more like a T-ball thing.
Yeah, but this starting next week, he's moving on up to coach pitch, they call it.
What is that?
Coach pitches.
Oh, I see. Okay, gotcha.
Instead of just sitting off the tee.
Yeah. Oh,
they still have the kids move around to every position. Each inning, no kid plays just one position.
Oh, that's interesting too.
Yeah, that way every kid feels that he's has a chance to get the ball or something. And I just that's starting next Sunday, so it depends on what time his game is. And I may miss some of our get-togethers.
Well, let us know what the time is. Yeah,
let us know. We could adjust the time.
Yeah.
Later in the day, or Saturday, or we're flexible.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
So that's one of the things about Little League baseball and stuff. They do, for the most part, do try to get all the kids involved. That's why I don't think these Pop Warner Football League things are so good. They give the kids all this equipment, and and still, there's only about 3 players on each team that actually do something with the ball. The rest of these kids just hit each other in the line. And the fattest kids are the big stars on the line because you can't move them. But just like a quarterback, and then there's a guy who runs with the ball. So
you're right. I never thought of that. That's true. And the other kids, I even when you think about that, and you watch college ball or certainly the pros, and you see some of these linemen who are, 350, 360.
Yes.
Were they like force-fed when they were children? How do you get to that? And how do you say, well, because it's one thing I want to be a football player and throw the winning touchdown. It's another, well, I want to weigh 500 pounds and hurt the other guy. You go, what? That's your goal?
I know. I always like
make the team.
Yeah.
I've read about. Then you're a 360-pound high school sophomore walking around looking like a whale, and it's over. That's it.
Yes. Like my son Jeffrey says, don't these people have mirrors in their house? Can't they see what they look like? God, I know.
We see them in the uniforms. Imagine, without the uniforms.
Oh, yeah. God.
Not a nice picture.
No. And then they adorn themselves with tattoos, which makes it even a prettier picture.
Oh, yeah.
I guess they figured they got so much.
Notice them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Hey, look at that. Who that guy there? He's got a tattoo. Oh, you mean the whale?
I see that with these.
Speaking of style,
girls who are
beards on ball players today. He used to be one guy, a relief pitcher with the Giants, went to the Dodgers. Can't think of his name. Now you got 40 guys with these big old beards that.
Oh yeah, they all have beards. Yeah. You're right. They all do.
Yeah, it's the House of David syndrome, I think.
Right. But they were a little
to be mainly relief pitchers. I don't know why. Well, because they're sitting in the bullpens and they don't have a lot to do. So hey, let's grow a beard.
Yeah, that's how it started. I wouldn't be surprised.
But you're right. Yeah. It's a lot of beards. House of David. That's
the House of David, right? Yeah, a lot of people thought that was a Jewish thing, but it wasn't.
It wasn't?
No.
Really?
No. They just looked like Jews because they had all those beards.
No.
Really?
Yeah. I forget. They were like a Mennonite or some other religious sect.
Oh.
Yeah, I found that out years later. I always rooted for them. I didn't know.
Yeah, right. Until the second, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Boy, I rooted for them. They played the House of Goyim that time.
Yeah, right. They tried to
extra innings. It was.
I'm going to take my House of David poster down now.
They did try to draft Hank Greenberg one year, I understand.
Did they really? I would think so.
Yeah, that was a big disappointment to me too. I must admit. You always had a fondness for them since there were so few Jewish ball players in the major leagues. You figured, well, the House of David has got them all, so we'll root for them.
Yeah,
right.
That really surprises me.
I'm sorry to bust your.
The more you learn, the better.
Yeah.
But in a way, I mean, those were Jewish guys that got together after Shabbos.
Right, they didn't play from Friday night. No, actually, I think they didn't play they didn't play some days. They played other days. I don't know when their schedule was. That was the reason most people never got to see them play, because you didn't know when they were going to play. They would show up in town and play.
Wasn't the House of Sophie Jewish, the all-girls team?
Yes, they were.
That's what I thought. That would have really upset me if that's not true.
I know. Oh. Yeah.
Now, what team was this? I don't remember the House of Sophie.
They just played in one corner of the Bronx.
Right, Harris Field.
They played. They started out in a hopscotch league.
Esther was at shortstop, and
they were all named Esther, if you remember. That's why. That's where Abbott and Costello got their routine. Yeah, got their routine from, because Esther so and so's on first, Esther so and so's on short. You had to really write out their last names, and so many of them were Markowitz. That was another problem.
And Shapiro, don't forget Shapiro.
Coach would throw to Esther, and the outfielder would go nuts. That's very funny.
When pop fly, you'd have to say, Esther has it. Which Esther? What Esther?
Yeah, I got it. Who are you?
Who are you? Yeah, right.
Who are you to have it? Why can't I have it? I'm not good enough?
He called Esther. I'm here.
I didn't pay my dues this week. I got it. It's all right for me. What are you talking about?
It's mine, and you're not getting it.
You're not getting it. That's right.
You're not getting it.
So long before I let you have this, Papa.
Yeah, I'm well rehearsed, and you're not getting it. It comes natural. So, all right, guys, this is fun. I appreciate your company. How about that?
Same here.
Yeah,
I will
me
let
too.
you know as soon as I can what time the game is. Right now, my computer
we'll do it any time over the weekend.
Is broken.
It's good for all three of us.
Yeah, that'll be good.
Okay. Be well, gentlemen. We'll see you next week. And if you're listening to this, stay tuned. Right after this segment, we're going to have Tony D'Angelo, who has a special guest on Tony D'Angelo AM PM.
Her name wouldn't be Esther, would it?
No.
No.
That's a great one.
Okay, guys, take care.
Well,
bye.
Right. Bye. See you next week. Thanks for listening. Tony's next, and be well, everybody. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast. Now, here's your host, Tony D'Angelo.
And a very good afternoon to you, my friends and fans all along the stations of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network up and down the coast. I am indeed your host, Tony D'Angelo, for this edition, a Labor Day edition of Tony D'Angelo's PM Coast to Coast. And man, I've got a guest for you, the lovely and talented Lisa Janti. You may know her as Lisa Montel, a very pretty and very agile actress of the 1950s and 1960s who left the entertainment business to go into humanitarian work, which she has been doing for many, many, many years in Los Angeles. And Lisa is a lovely person. She's devoted to her faith. She's devoted to caring for others. And it's really a treat to know her. It's also a treat to know you, all our friends and fans who follow us every week and who tell us about what they want to hear and tell us how much they like the show. And you guys are every bit as important as the guests. I just want you to know that. You mean a lot to me. Another thing that means a lot to me is great bump music. Man, one of my favorites from all time, Miriam Makeba from 1967, doing Pata Pata. We'll be back to you right after this.
Joe, you know for real that you a hook, don't you? For real. How are you going to catch me and hit me, Joe? I'm too fast. I'll be smoking right on you. Well, you're going to be smoking and I ain't going to be joking. That's right, I'm going to be pecking and poking, pouring water on your smoking. Yeah. And this might shock and amaze you, but I will retire Frazier. Hey, Clay. What you call me? Clay. Frazier. I say this to you, and I say it with no malice. When I'm finished with your head, you're going to need some Vitalis. That's what you better have. I'll see you fight tonight, boy. I'll see you later. Listen, boy, I got something for you, and I want you to come out smoking, you hear me? Yeah, I'll see you, chump. Be good. Listen to me. I'm going to hold you to it. Go ahead, chump. I'm going to talk to you when I whoop you.
This ringside seat has been brought to you by Vitalis, the natural conditioner that's found in more professional locker rooms than any other hair groom. Greaseless Vitalis. It's the greatest.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, I am joined by Lisa Janti. Lisa is formerly known as Lisa Montel, an actress of the 1950s and 1960s. She has been a friend of my show. Just a really, really, really sweet, terrific lady, and one I had a crush on for many years, watching the movies and watching TV shows. But now we get to talk as friends, and it's one of the neat things about doing this show. Lisa's calling in from California. We're so great to have her, and we're so grateful to have her, I should say. Lisa, how are you today, dear?
Oh, I'm fine. You know, I have a few little things here and there that need taking care of. As you get older, the body begins to act like a little child and wants a lot of attention.
It really does get to its own thing, you know, now and then, and the maintenance.
As soon as one thing is over, it says, "Oh, I've got another for you here."
Yeah, it's really the maintenance starts to get a little shall we say, long in the tooth.
Yes, exactly.
So and again, I'm so grateful every single time I have you and we're able to talk. You were born in Poland, is that correct?
Yeah.
And how did you make your way into the United States and then later into entertainment and then into pictures and television?
Well, actually it's rather a dramatic story. We don't have the time for all that.
Oh, no, go right ahead, because we're not really, they cut around me here, so, please take a little time.
Well, we were living in Warsaw and having a very good life there. And my father was the president of a large import-export company, I think the largest one that Poland did business with all over the world. And he spent a good deal of time in the United States every year. So he was very much a friend and someone who was very familiar with the States. And he was also very aware, this is now, I was born in 1933, if you can believe it. There are very few of us left. Anyway, of course, everything was beginning to circulate in Europe. Hitler was on the rise.
Mm-hmm.
And my father was very aware of that. And he determined that he really needed to get us out because he was part of the leadership of the country, and generally in those situations they are the first to be attacked and, imprisoned
Sure.
or whatever. So, and both he and my mother, not knowing each other at that time, had also been through the First World War and the Russian Revolution, because they were living in Russia during that time. So they went through that whole upheaval and becoming refugees during the First World War, and each of them has a fascinating story regarding that. But my mother did not want to be disrupted again, did not want her whole world, changed. And so my father was having a hard time persuading her. And as it often is, people were very blind to what was happening. Right on the border, Hitler was, he had already made moves in Czechoslovakia and other places. And it was very obvious that his moves were to take over as much as he could of Europe and more.
As history bears out.
Yeah. But, and most of our friends were in positions where they had the money, the means, they could have left. But most of them, including many of our Jewish friends, just could not believe that this was really happening and didn't want to believe it. People don't want their lives disrupted.
No, none of us do.
So he was having a hard time. But he used psychology on her. He said, okay, but you know what? Let's go on a vacation, a trip to the United States. I want you to see the country. Because he loved America very much. And she agreed, and they went on for several months, I think, back, I don't know, maybe in early 39 sometime, or late 38, I'm not sure when exactly. But anyway, they crossed the whole country. I have wonderful photographs of them, just having a wonderful trip. And my mother fell in love with America, as my father knew she would, and so she did agree. And so finally, all the arrangements were made, and we got out of there 3 months before Hitler invaded Poland. Can you believe that?
Oh, my dear.
So we arrived in New York in 1939. I think it was, July, sometime the end of June, beginning of July, something like that. And have lived here ever since. I grew up in New York.
You grew up right in New York City?
Yeah, New York City. I attended 2 wonderful high schools. They were kind of unique in their time, the High School of Music and Art, and then the High School of Performing Arts. So I traveled on the subway at least an hour each way to, because these were like magnet schools.
Right.
And kids came from all over the, all over the city. And so we had kids from Queens and Brooklyn and Bronx and all over, And we were living at that, we first lived right on Fifth Avenue in New York. That was wonderful. We had a huge, huge apartment right across the street from Central Park. So Central Park was my playground. And so anyway, we lived there quite a while, and I had a chance to see all the museums and have a lot of fun. And my father took me everywhere. Hayden's Planetarium, the old one.
And you know, I was going to ask you, because being a city girl, it's like your movie plots or the roles you were in. You rode horses, you fought sharks, you did all these. And I'm saying, how does a city girl do that? And you said
I hardly ever played European.
Yeah.
A few roles. Well, you know, that's life. It takes you where you may not have thought you would go. But anyway, to make this shorter,
sure.
Moved to Forest Hills, and we had a house there, and so anyway, I was growing up in New York, and when I heard about the High School of Music and Art, even though Forest Hills had a wonderful high school, I said, that's for me, that's where I have to go. And I studied art, and I loved all the art. So I put together a portfolio, and I auditioned. Many hundreds of kids auditioned every year, and so they could only take, so many. So it was quite a big deal, to be accepted. And I loved it. But then the High School of Performing Arts opened up. Sidney Lumet was teaching there.
No kidding.
And the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I heard about that, I said, I've got to go there. And so I had never had any drama lessons, but I figured, I'll give it a try. What have I got to lose? And so again, I put together something for my audition, and I got in. So that was that. Now, meanwhile, the war was still, the things were, I can't remember all the dates exactly, but I guess the war was over, but things had changed drastically, obviously, in Europe.
In Europe, sure.
My father was this staunch anti-communist, and even though he was invited by the government of Poland to come back, whatever leadership there was around the world, they were welcoming everybody back, but my father would not return as long as the communists were in power. And he had, meanwhile, during his earlier years during the import-export business, done work in Peru, and because they also worked with iron mines and minerals and other.
Sure, yeah.
So anyway, he organized a Peruvian-American partnership to explore some special mines in Peru. And in the meanwhile, while we were waiting for all that to get organized, he had us move to Florida because we had a orange grove and house there that used to be a kind of winter,
I understand.
While I was waiting to transition from the U.S. to Peru, because my father went to Peru to set up the business, and meanwhile my mother and brother and I moved to this house that we had in Florida, just for an interim. And so I actually graduated from St. Lucie High School in Fort Pierce, Florida. So I had that totally different experience. And then we all moved to Peru. And it was in Peru that I took up horseback riding very seriously. It was one of the things I loved. And we were being taught by some of the military officers there. There was a whole thing which they made available to, the people who were interested. And learned how to jump and ride horses very well, and that was one of my great loves in my early years. So that's how I got to be a good horsewoman. And while I was in Peru, I joined an American theater group, just an amateur group, Some of us were business people, some were housewives, some were on the kid, who knows. But anyway, people who were interested in the theater. And so I acted in some other plays. And apparently during one of my, I think the play was Night Must Fall. It was a fairly well-known play. And so I had a kind of featured role there. And apparently there was an American producer in the audience. They had, with some other, people, directors, so on, who had come to Peru.
Watching the play.
Make a film that was Daughter of the Sun God. And they were looking for a local actors. They had the leading man, who was actually, I think, financing the whole thing. But anyway, they saw me and they auditioned me and they, asked me to do the role. So I thought, well, that would be fun. So I did. I made this movie, which in itself was, I could write a book about that. I almost died several times. I mean, it was a day.
You almost died doing the movie? You almost died?
Well, because we crossed these rickety Peruvian bridges that were made of these slats of wood over these huge chasms and raging rivers, and then I had to cross one of the rivers and was swept down, and then I had to be by this. We had a scene where I'm playing with a bird in this tree, and a boa constrictor is coming down the tree right behind me, and I had another encounter with a jaguar. All of these things, which I had a horse.
All in a day's work, I guess. Wow.
All in a day's work, exactly. But it gave me a chance to really get to know Peru in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise, because I was mostly living in Lima, of course, and that's like any cosmopolitan city. Very nice and very comfortable and all that. Well, we were filming. We were out there in the wilderness, in the jungle and the mountains. And if you see the movie, I mean, it's a horrible movie, terrible, really. But it was.
But got you started.
That was the beginning of my great career. So anyway, they were when they went back, and they said that people who had seen the movie were very impressed with me and wanted. Were encouraging me to come to Hollywood and all that. And at that time, I was not really interested. I was having a great time living in Peru and engaged to be married and so on. And so, I was not interested. But then, as it happens, my father died and everything changed. And all of a sudden, and my fiance was studying at MIT in the States.
Mm-hmm.
So when they were encouraging me to come, my mother and I decided, well, let's go and check it out. My mother was wonderful, and she said, I'll back you in every way. Just don't be disappointed if, nothing comes of it. So we did end up eventually in Hollywood, and I was able to get with a good agency and started working. And then, but the agency was very much into the Hollywood scene, a lot of parties, a lot of drinking, and that was not what I was into.
You weren't that kind of girl, yeah.
I was not. And so a friend of mine said, well, there's an agency that apparently he was very familiar and friendly with. They did all of Gene Autry's things. They were primarily the agency handling, Gene Autry Enterprises, his films, and whatever other business, he had.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they're very nice people. They're more elderly, very gentlemanly. And I said, I'm very interested, because I really was not comfortable with the other crews. I had been told in so many words to attend certain parties and, be seen on the.
And I understand that could really be a drag after a while. You just feel that you just keep going out and, you kind of lose yourself. I've heard more than one person and one guest and one friend tell me that.
Yeah, especially if you're a young girl and, there's a lot of hanky-panky going on.
Shh, you didn't hear that.
So anyway, I felt I just not only was uncomfortable, I felt I couldn't handle it. I didn't want to be in those situations. So anyway, when I met the people at the Hammelberg agency, which, as I said, handled these things, I was very happy. So they started sending me out all these westerns. Before that, at the other AMC, I think it was, or MCA, I don't remember the name of it. It was a big, big agency that I started out with. I was doing the European, the French, and the, all the different European, Italian, Polish parts. But when I started with the Hammelberg, all of a sudden, here I was going for all these westerns. And although I did some regular American roles, in makeup, I could pass very well for at least I thought I did, pass for Indian and Mexican.
Oh, you were a beautiful Indian, a beautiful Islander, or a beautiful, anything you did.
I started to, so that's how I started doing all those roles, and of course my horseback riding came in handy. I had always been a good swimmer, so I worked a lot because I was very daring. I handled hawks and jumped horses and, did all these things that not every actress might do.
Oh, so, yeah, I'm sure the producers loved you because they didn't have to hire a stunt girl.
Well, you did have stunt people for the really, really, I guess, dangerous parts. My dangerous roles were over when I left Peru. I survived that, but afterwards it was a little, better taken care of. So anyway, that went on for about 10 years, close to 10 years. And I must say I had a wonderful time. I mean, I really enjoyed. I won't go into the business aspect of it, but my father's partners did not come through with what I think had been agreed, and so my mother and I, had some money, but not much, and I really had to work. And so, and I wasn't prepared for any kind of job, really. So the fact that I could start working in films was just a godsend,
Sure.
Grateful. Not only was it a fun and wonderful thing to do, but it was necessary. I mean, I needed to work. So, as I said, that went on for quite a while, and during that period I married, I had a child, what a beautiful daughter, and I also became a member of the Baha'i Faith. I don't know if you're familiar with it, are you?
Yeah, I remember we chatted about the Baha'i Faith the last time.
Yeah. So, and I became very, very committed and involved in that, which has to do a lot with really making commitments to help the planet, to really do something very positive. I wanted to work with people who, especially children who were in a deprived condition and so on. I began to volunteer a lot. And gradually I felt that my filming years were over. I mean, they weren't over because of that I couldn't continue working, but because my interest, changed.
I understand, and I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, most notably, I think, you being one, and I think of Dolores Hart, the actress who left at the peak of her fame and just one day called a car and said, "Take me to that convent. You know, I want to do something different." Did you have that kind of an experience?
Yes, yeah. Well, mine was a little bit more gradual in that while I was acting, I was also very involved with teaching art at the Watchtower Art Center and volunteering in different programs. So I really felt a real pull because I was doing a lot of public speaking and lecturing about the Baha'i faith, which was total commitment to changing the world to make it a more just place and working for world peace and good stuff, and that's where my heart was. And I didn't want to just be talking about these things.
You wanted to be doing
it. I wanted to be doing it. I wanted what I said to be backed up by action, and that what I did had integrity and so on. And so I went from, just as an example, I in those days, I don't know what the difference in pay would be from the 50s to now, but quite a difference. But anyway, I would make as much as $2,000 a day, and ended up working in Head Start for $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
So that was quite a difference. And, it made life a little tougher in that respect. But, you make your choices in life.
You really do.
You want to accomplish.
You really, truly do.
What you want to do. I mean, what is it that your life is all about?
In your years of humanitarian work and working for the Baha'i faith,
I never worked for the faith in terms of a job.
I understand.
In a volunteer, but I did end up becoming director of a large Head Start program in Arizona. When I had been working in films, one of my films was the last Lone Ranger movie that...
I saw that with Clayton Moore.
Okay, Moore. That was the last movie that he made, was The Lone Ranger and the Lost City of Gold. And so I had the female lead in that. But we shot a lot of it in Tucson at the wonderful San Javier mission.
Mm-hmm.
I really fell in love with Tucson, and of course I've been falling in love with the Southwest, doing all these westerns anyway. So I used to be asked, to be invited to come speak at the university and at different Baha'i meetings there. And so I remember being there in one time. And I was doing a lot of work with the Native Americans, trying to get their artwork
in mainstream,
commercialized, so they could make a living out of it, and so on. It was one of my projects. And there was this advertisement for a teacher and a director of a Head Start program. I thought, I'm just going to apply and just see,
Ain't that great? Yeah.
So, and I applied for the teacher because I felt that's what I was more qualified for. But they asked me to be the director. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and try it. And, if one is motivated, and I've always been like a sponge. I've always been a great reader and very interested in just about everything.
And you've been brave. You've had a spirit of adventure.
Oh, absolutely.
And that has driven you to great places.
Yeah. So I spent about 5 years doing that. And then I was on my way to Africa because I had been offered a very interesting job in Ghana, and that's another whole story. But that didn't work out. And meanwhile, while I had still been working in films, I had met Tom Bradley when he first became a city councilman.
In Los Angeles.
So we kept in touch, you know, and we did actually the first interracial television series together. I put together a program called Project People that I wanted to focus on. Excuse me, Tony. I wanted to focus on issues to explore how people could get involved and participate and do something positive. So we had all kinds of different, programs that we did. And so I got to know him quite. So anyway, I had been telling him about the show. I said, I think it would be so neat if I could co-host this with someone who was black, or of a minority, just because that was the early 60s. And that was still very transitional at that time. I don't know if there was any other interracial
certainly not then, I don't think.
TV at that time. I don't think so. But anyway, I said I would love to do that. And can you recommend anyone? Do you know of anyone that might be willing to do that? He said, I will. And I was so delighted because, I didn't even dare to ask him. I didn't even think that he would consider it. But he did. So we did a whole series, and they loved it. They asked us to come back and do more. But by then I had this job in Tucson, so I left. I left a lot of interesting things.
Yeah, now I'm reading here on your biography, you were commissioned by the Cultural Affairs Department of the City of Los Angeles to develop a youth arts advocacy program as part of the master plan. You were awarded the highest commendation as an outstanding public servant. That's quite an honor. Can you tell us about that?
Well, okay. So after the stint in Arizona with Head Start, the mayor, then he was mayor, asked me to join his staff back in L.A., and I did. And I did that for several years. And then again I went off and did other things that I wanted to do. And so I had made contact with many of the people at City Hall, of course, and they knew me, they knew of my, efforts and so on. And the mayor, was always very supportive of my doing things. He wanted me to stay in L.A., but at that time I'd moved back to Del Mar in the San Diego area. I know I'm jumping all over the place, but
no, you're not at all.
So anyway, then I got this call that they were interested in my doing this project because the mayor, of course, knew of my love of the arts and especially using the arts in education and working with inner city kids and so on. So for 2 years, I was commissioned to put together this whole program, and we had, just the leadership of the city that were involved in cultural issues, drama, the arts, music, whatever, and how to integrate all that and make it accessible to children in schools.
I understand.
And so that was a wonderful, wonderful, experience. I loved it.
Now, in all your years of humanitarian service and educational service and service in the arts, what do you think is the greatest, shall we say, improvement, and what do you think is the greatest factor, if you will, that you really wish at this point could have been farther along, or you've seen it diminish over time?
I think we're in a period of intense transition. Our whole technology has made the planet a very small neighborhood. I mean, we can instantly practically communicate with anyone.
Anyone, yeah. You and I are doing it cross country.
Exactly. Exactly. And we can go almost anywhere, fast, and I'm sure it'll get faster. And so I think people who are clinging, who are scared of the changes, are becoming more and more polarized in trying to hold back, hang on, things as they were in the good old days, which were, I'm sorry to say, not so good for a lot of people.
For sure.
And others are visionary, and they see the changes that, the times we're in, and the necessary changes, and are working to put into practice. So I think you have these two forces, the pulling back and the pulling ahead. And a lot of people in between who either don't know, don't care,
Too busy paying bills, yeah.
Not involved. So I think it's so obvious in our situation right now how polarized and how extreme some of these differences are. So I think, obviously I would, just feel very sad about the people who are scared of the future, scared to embrace everybody. We are here so briefly. I mean, especially at my age, you feel it, how quickly life goes by. It really does. And you really have to come to terms finally with yourself. Who are you? Why are you here? And what is it you want your life to mean? And what is it when, and I believe that this is just the beginning of our soul journey, and that we go on and we take ourselves with us, whoever we are, that's what we've got. So whatever we've made of ourselves. And the two aspects are, of course, the heart and the mind. What have we learned? How much have we loved? These are, I would say, the ultimate questions. How have we grown?
What has been our impact on others?
Closer to God,
Yeah.
What?
What has been our impact on others?
Absolutely, and our own souls. It's quite an exciting and wonderful thing, in spite of all this tragedy and sadness and horrific things that are going on today. So anyway, what I've been doing for the past, almost 15 years is getting into writing. For a long time I was doing different projects that I was asked to do, and engaged as a consultant and so on. But mostly I've been doing writing, and so and what happened was that from all my horseback riding back in Peru, when I was learning how to jump, I also learned how to fall off a horse. I did a lot of falling, and it impacted my hips, so I began to have finally some serious hip problems, which prevented me from being as active and mobile as I would like to be. But that kind of fits right into the fact that I was getting more and more serious about writing. And I wrote a book that was published in 2005 called Baha'i, the New Vision. And that sold out pretty fast, several thousand copies. But that was like my first try, and I felt it needed a lot of work. So ever since then, I've been working on the second edition. And it's got a new title now, and I love my book. If nothing ever comes of it, I'm just so grateful that I had a project, something I really...
And a means of creative expression, what's in your heart.
Very creative and a lot of research, and it's been a terrific growing experience. I think if you embrace your life, whatever stage it's at, and whatever circumstances you're in, you find so many treasures. If you want things that are not available to you or that no longer are possible, then you'll be a very unhappy person.
Oh, for certain.
You say, okay, yeah, here's the new challenge. Here's the new possibility. So I'm working on the second edition and hope very much that I can get it out soon. And we'll just keep on going.
Well, and I think that's a wonderful answer to a question that I was planning to ask but did not. But in our closing moments together, and oftentimes I'll start a show and say, tell me about yourself, Lisa, and tell me what you want someone to know about you where they don't know a thing about you. I'll start a show that way. I didn't start this show this way, but I'm going to end it. Tell us about yourself, Lisa, and in a minute or 2 minutes, what do you want someone to know about who you are, what you do, and what you represent and what you stand for?
Well, I would identify myself primarily as a Baha'i, because a Baha'i is a person who embraces all of humanity, the whole planet, the whole cosmos. I am a firm believer in a great divine purpose for creation and for each of us. And I think our main role is to find our personal journey, our personal, you might say, special talent or vehicle to express our soul and to grow. In my case, I've always been a lover of the arts and learning and just experiencing as much of life as I can and accepting and welcoming whatever it is, the best and the worst, because I think we're here to learn and to grow. And you don't grow by just sitting around having a good time. You grow through the challenges that you're faced with.
Oh, isn't that so true?
And I think for one of the projects I've always been involved in and stressed very much in my book is that children need to be exposed to the beauty of the art, music and painting and all of the, beautiful expressions of civilization. Because to just live to make money, is such a sad, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I work in a business where the riches oftentimes can bring emptiness.
Absolutely. So I think that's what it's all about, is becoming as knowledgeable, as kind, as good as you can, and recognizing that we are all very imperfect beings, and accepting that in others, and accepting that in ourselves. I would say my greatest disappointments have not been in anything other than what I have done or not done. That I look at myself and I say, okay, that was not good, and I need to improve that. And I need to make up for that if I can. And certainly to the last moment, see how I can contribute to making a better world.
Well, you've contributed.
And then just let me end on this. This is not the end. I absolutely believe that. And it's the beginning. So let's prepare ourselves for the next. Let's graduate and with honors if we can.
Well, my dear, you've contributed wonderfully and graciously to my little humble show today, and I thank you so much for being with us, and we'll continue to keep in touch, and sure we'll have some chats in the future. Take care, Lisa, and thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It certainly has.
In every Chevrolet showroom across America, more and more people are looking at the car that's just out and just wonderful. The 1957 Chevrolet. Some are looking at Chevrolet's daring new front-end styling, the bold new grille, big, beautiful sloping hood. Some are looking at Chevy's handsome new rear end with high fashion fenders and fresh new design. Everyone's enthused about the new color-fashioned interiors and the sleek command post instrument panel. And the biggest news of all, Chevrolet's fuel injection. The greatest engine advance since the overhead valve. Plus, 4 famous drives topped by new exclusive Turbo Glide that brings you triple turbine takeoff and a new flowing kind of going. So visit your Chevrolet dealers soon. See the car that goes them all one better. Number 1 in the USA, the 57 Chevrolet.
I'd like to honor a few sports birthdays today. Rico Cardi is 79 years old. Gary Maddox, who was often termed the best defensive baseball player in his era in the outfield, is 69, blowing out 69 candles. And Orator Jim O'Rourke is blowing out 168 candles in heaven. Jim was a fixture in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and is in the Baseball Hall of Fame, was a farmer, was a lawyer, was an incredible, incredible presence. Anyway, we'll be right back right after this.
Hi, this is Les Paul.
Mary Ford. School bells ring and children sing. It's back to Robert Hall again. Mother knows for better clothes. It's back to Robert Hall again. You'll save more on clothes for school. Shop at Robert Hall.
In the Dan Ingram Memorial Honor Group of the Day, I'd like to honor all the moms out there who busted their heads open and shopped and drove and put things together to get their kids back to school. And, you know, moms, you really are the glue that holds families together, let me tell you. But for you, there wouldn't be anything keeping a lot of things together. So today we honor you. Anyway, let's go.
Old friend Monitor and Garraway are host right now to the very likes of Miss Marilyn Monroe. I wonder if I'm scared of you. Are most men scared of you? I'm not sure whether I should be frightened of you or not.
No, nobody's scared of me.
I don't know. I bet a lot of guys are scared of you, though, because you're such an institution now. Really you are. You're a kind of a national possession. Do you feel that you belong to the nation as a whole?
I don't know quite what you mean by that. I live here.
That'll do it very nicely. I heard you were smart, but I didn't know.
I'm not.
Yes, sure.
Don't let me fool you. I'm not.
You know, you have a reputation as among the great mass of people. I think it's probably the most beautiful blonde in the world, but a kind of a dumb girl because you're a beautiful blonde. And blondes and dumbness seem to go together. I think it all started with everyone gentlemen prefer blondes.
You know, it's interesting that people associate, if you happen to have blonde hair, you know, naturally or not naturally, however, or if you're not out of shape in some way, you're absolutely dumb. I mean, you're considered dumb. I don't know why that is. I think it's a very limited view.
That isn't true, I'm sure.
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what the person, what they look like, what color hair they have.
Nonsense.
Or if they happen not to be out of shape, I mean, my time's to come. Gravity catches up with all of us.
Yes. Slowly, but I'm afraid inexorably, if that's the right word. I hear that you're moving to New York City to live. Is it so?
Yes. This will be my home from now on. Mm-hmm. That is until I retire. And when I retire, I'm going to retire to Brooklyn.
Why Brooklyn?
Oh, that's my favorite place in the world so far that I've seen.
Sure.
I haven't traveled much, but I don't think I'll find anything to replace Brooklyn.
You're going to help our rating in Brooklyn about 9 points. Well, why is it Brooklyn? What happens there with you?
Well, almost everything. I just like walking around. Mm. I think the view's better from Brooklyn. You know, you can look back over and see Manhattan.
Yeah, that's the only place you can see Manhattan from your
That's the best view, but it isn't only the view. It's the people. It's, I like the streets. I guess the people and the streets and the atmosphere. I just like it.
Mm-hmm. Old friend Monitor and Garraway are host right now to the very likes of Miss Marilyn Monroe.
Special thanks to so many. Miriam Makeba, Marilyn Monroe, Dave Garraway, the 1957 Chevy, our honor group of the day moms, and Les Paul and Mary Ford. Also, the lovely, incredible, and talented Lisa Janti, formerly Lisa Montel. It's always a treat to have Lisa. Anyway, it's been great being with you this afternoon. We'll see you again next week, and I can't wait to get started on that show. So, for Tony D'Angelo, the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network, everybody along the coast, Kayuska Day, as Dan Ingram would say. We'll see you next week, everybody. God bless. Adios.